Hello, my name is Gary. This is Investigating Film for Dummies. I hope you guys are ready for another interesting show today with my sister Genevieve. And what today we'll be talking about 13 Lives. So it's a interesting movie about, I thought it was interesting, a rescue movie by Ron Howard. I guess he wanted to do it because he had done 13, Apollo 13, and it was, I don't know, similar number, I guess. I'm not sure, but it's also an interesting adventure story. So, have you got any thing to say about it before we get started?
I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I remember watching the news story back in 2018, and it was horrific what happened to them. And I thought that Colin Farrell was fantastic.
You didn't like Viggo Mortensen?
Who's that?
That was his partner from Lord of
Oh,
the Rings.
oh, that was him?
That was him. Yes.
Yeah, he was fantastic as well.
Yeah, you couldn't even tell who he was. He
Well,
was so
actually,
fantastic.
I couldn't tell that that was Colin Farrell, actually. I realized it when I paused it, and then I saw the names come up, and I was like, oh, that's Colin Farrell. And he is probably, I think, one of the most underrated actors in Hollywood.
Yeah, he is underrated. He does a lot of good movies, though. He gets a lot of good parts. He might be underrated, but he gets a lot of good roles. And what would the motivation for these two huge movie stars? I think Vigo's a big star. I think he's another underrated actor. Both of them are underrated, and but both get really good parts to do this type of movie. But I think it just probably captured the hearts of all these big stars. Now, the interesting part about it is they won't let this movie be shown in Thailand
Hmm.
because I I watched it because I wasn't sure at first, but then when I found out for sure that it wasn't being shown, I kind of watched it in the since I live in Thailand, if you can tell by the background. Um, I was interested in well, let me backtrack. Actually, in 2018, I was getting ready to move to Thailand right when this happened. So the month before I was supposed to leave for Thailand as a retired person, this happened. And I go, oh my God, I can't believe this. This is like some kind of bad luck or something. Which is I grew up in Thailand, so I'm a bit superstitious like they are. So as you can tell in the movie, it was a lot of superstition and stuff going on with the good luck and bands and wearing the little armbands and everything. Um, so anyway, so anyway, it worked out for the best. But I think by the time I got ready to leave, they'd already saved them. So but
Mhm.
the thing is, I was thinking, why did these big stars? You know, it was just an amazing story, right? The wild boars, um, soccer team being stuck inside the caves for God knows how long, and
It's like 18 days or something, right?
18 days. It was a long time,
A
and
really
they went
long
with
time.
no food, or well, actually, they started getting food near the end, but it was just anyway. Back to why they wouldn't show it in Thailand. So I was watching it. Why do they want to show this in Thailand? Well, a lot of it has to do with losing face because the Asians have a hard time with losing face, and so one of the part of that was the scuba diver of the SEAL who was actually came out of retirement to help out, who died, and as a scuba diver myself, he made all these, and if this is all true, he made all these crazy mistakes that he should never get separated from his partner. He should have never been carrying that big old bag with him. There was like a lot of things he did that got him killed. And then at the beginning of the movie, the Vigo goes, or that character that Vigo Mortensen plays, he says, these guys are incredibly fit, but they don't have the expertise that we have to go into these caves because it's a very, very specialized type of diving. Extremely dangerous. You really have to know what you're doing. It doesn't matter how great a scuba diver you are. This is like another. It's like a whole different level of scuba diving that you have
Yeah.
to learn how to do. And so yeah, so that part of that, and then plus the part about the corruption, with the governor of that province, being thrown under the bus by the other, politicians. And that a lot of that is true in Thailand. And so being able to open up this bag of corruption to the world, to them, is disturbing. Or at least
Mhm.
for not to the Thais themselves. The Thai people would prefer they'd be able to see something like this, but the Thai government likes to keep this. They like to pretend that this doesn't go on. So they said, well, we just won't show it in Thailand.
Mhm.
That's how they solve that
That's too
problem.
bad.
And it's too bad, and I know a lot of Thais would like to see it. I'd
Mhm.
assume they would put it in the theater or something, but because of those two things, there's only two things, and it turned out that whatever happened, that one governor, he did everything right.
Mhm.
Right? He called in the specialist. He agreed with the drugging part of it and everything. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I thought it was very educational. I mean, I knew much of the story, but to see it played out with a huge production like that, because of a very good production, um, you know, full on Hollywood production type movie, right?
Yeah.
That's
2.5 hours long.
2.5 hours. What um, they didn't, scrimp on the money, but I did notice there was a lot of CGI, which is amazing because I watched the credits. Wow, you can't. It's hard to tell nowadays, isn't it?
Mhm.
If it's CGI
Well,
or
I
not.
can't tell.
I can't tell. I can't tell. They did shoot some in Shanghai, which is where it happened, which is about a 2 hour drive from where I live.
Have you been?
Tom Luong Caves, that's what they're called. I've never been to those caves. I've been to Shanghai, of course, about 3 or 4 times, but and a lot of retirees live up there. But what they're doing now, they closed the caves down. What
Mhm.
blew my mind was that they were flooded for 8 months after they got the kids out.
Wow.
That's how bad the flood was. And another interesting thing I didn't know was that the soccer coach, you know, I thought that maybe he was just, the kids are just going to go by themselves, which is stuff I used to do when I was a kid. We take off and do crazy stuff like that. And he said, well, I better come along, which was smart because he's also it was going to be a monk at one time, and he helped them meditate. They say that's part of why they survived, was through the meditation, you know,
Incredible.
keeping them calm through the entire thing. And I'm a bit claustrophobic, so which is interesting though. I always think that I'm claustrophobic, but I scuba dive and I do all these things. I don't know, and I've been into caves before, but not as a scuba diver. I don't really get that claustrophobic, but when I sit and think about it, I get a little in my
Claustrophobic?
mind psychologically, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Claustrophobic. I'm just correcting
claustrophobic.
your
Oh,
pronunciation.
did I say claustrophobic?
Maybe
Claustrophobic.
it's your accent.
Could be my accent. Claustrophobic. Claustrophobic. Yeah, I have many words that are difficult for me. Um, anyway,
But
so
I don't think that you're not claustrophobic because I couldn't do that stuff. I couldn't go scuba diving.
well, that's what I was saying. So I don't think I am, but in my mind, when I sit and think about it in the dark of the night or watching a movie like that, I get a little claustrophobic because they're down in those tight spots, right? And
How
what?
did they film that though?
Excuse me.
How did they film the tight spots?
I'm sure they probably had studio. Probably in a studio. I'm sure that big scene where they're in the big opening of the cave where they do all their setup. I'm sure that was all a big studio setting. And they did use a lot of Thai actors, a lot of very familiar actors I'm familiar with that I see in TV and Thai movies. So there were a lot of them were in throughout the show too. You
Mhm.
know, so, but again, I was going to say that it comes back to another thing that I think irritates some people. I don't know who those people are, but I know it does irritate some. It's a kind of another white savior movie, right? The
Yeah.
white guys have come in to save the day once again, just like in Tarzan or Lawrence of Arabia or any of these kind of white savior movies as they call them, right?
Yeah.
And so I can see where that can irritate some people. So completely
I
get it.
took note of that. but it just happened to be that the two people that
Yeah,
could
that they were
dive there happened to be
the
what,
specialists.
Australian and what, English or something?
That's a good
No, not
question.
Australian. I don't know.
I thought they were both English.
Oh,
The two guys. You know, I actually saw them interviewed back when this all happened. I just can't remember, but I'm pretty sure they're both English.
okay.
Yeah, both
You're probably
cave,
right.
cave specialists. Was a sophomore engineer. Yeah, that was the Colin Farrell character. And then the other one, I don't know. I guess he was just an adventurer, right? He looked at his house. He's got kayaks and stuff
Mhm.
everywhere. He's always working on his. It looked like he was working on his diving stuff. So I think he just is a professional adventurer, right? Whereas the other guy actually had a real job. So the Colin Farrell character. Anyway, so any other? We both obviously liked it. So you know, we
I stopped watching it. It was hard to watch though. The parts where they're in the tight spots in the caves underwater. It was terrifying.
yeah. Like I said, they're probably all done on a set and special.
But knowing that it really happened though, like they really had to do those things. I mean, obviously not, but
Oh,
it
right.
really happened.
It really happened. Yeah. Well, I
And
think
they had to
one
take
of
those kids out, not knowing if they were going to survive.
right. I don't know who said it. Colin Farrell, somebody I read that he said it. He found it just making the movie. He found it disturbing, you know, because not knowing what they had to go through to,
Yeah.
you
I
know,
mean, the one guy died, but like you said, he probably shouldn't have been diving anyways.
shouldn't have been
Um,
diving, or he should have been with a more experienced partner, and he shouldn't have been hauling that big bag of. And see, I did not know that part of the story. I thought he just succumbed to whatever, you know, goes on down in those caves. But you know, he was dragging that big bag with him. You know, he's trying to do the right thing, but you know,
mhm. I mean, he's still a
sometime.
hero. He's still a hero. It's just so tragic.
Oh, it's very tragic. He was
Ideally, you would
uh,
have
he was
everyone.
there giving of himself, and he didn't even have to be there because he was retired, and he was just there to help, and like a lot of people were. There were a lot of people there, like you said, from all different countries. You know, and what I was going to say was that what struck me was the length of time between those to get from one place to another. And you know, I guess you because I know as a scuba diver, I get one big tank, and I can last for almost an hour with one big tank, and we're talking 8 hours here from one end to the other, or
Mhm.
longer, right? Or to a spot where they
That's
could
what we need.
get
That's
another
why it
tank.
was hard to watch because it really happened, and that's insane.
Right, and you cannot imagine just saying 7 hours, you know, but to actually have to live through the going diving through those places for 7 hours. Now there must have been some nice areas where it was just a comfortable little swim, like the kind I like to dive, a comfortable little dive, and then you get into some tight spots. But I don't know, maybe it was all just tight and rough. I just it's there's where I start getting kind of spooked about the whole thing, right?
So my question though then is it took them 16 hours, 8 hours there, 8 hours back.
Yeah, that's why I said they must. Well, first off, they had to set up those little way stations where they put extra tanks because, like I said, I go for an hour in one tank. These guys were carrying maybe two tanks on each side. I can't. I was trying to watch that what exactly what their oxygen supply was, but yeah, you'd have to change every hour or at least every 2 hours if you're carrying two tanks.
Mhm.
You know, maybe a super professional diver could go a little bit longer. But even
Yeah,
with the kids, I mean, it's hard to gauge all that kind of stuff and that length of that those many hours. And then those kids just wearing the mask, and they're not scuba divers; they're just breathing naturally from their drugged state. Um, wow, I just the logistics of it is mind blowing.
it is, and I just think if it was my child and I knew that was what was happening, uh,
Well, that's why they didn't tell the parents. They didn't tell any of the parents that they were being drugged. It was all kept a secret. And and like one guy said, well, maybe we'll get one out. But then he said, well, I don't want to do too many spoiler alerts, but yeah, it's a
Well, I think
movie.
they all know. If you know the story at all, you know that they live because I mean, it's based
Oh,
on a true story. So
true. That's true. But the spoiler alert I was thinking of was that the guy, Vigo says to Colin Farrell, to character, he says that um, you know, we got one out. You know what that means, don't you? That if any of the other ones die, I mean, if we get out one out, we're a hero. But now that we've gotten one out, if any of the other ones die, then we're not heroes anymore, right?
right.
So it was like a
They're
real,
the villains.
real razor's edge they were walking. So anyway, kudos to those guys and to the filmmakers who actually brought this to life.
Yeah.
So
Ron Howard did a good job.
yeah, Ron Howard always does a good job.
Yeah,
He's Ron.
he does.
He's Ron Howard. I mean, if there's anybody that should be a great director, it should be him. Having been on the movie set since he was like a little baby, from a child, right? And so, I mean, I remember him watching him in Music Man when I was a little kid, singing Gary, Indiana. But I mean, that was when actually the Music Man actually came out. I mean, originally, that's how old I am. 1963 or whenever that was, 62. And so yeah, and then I've grown up with that guy, the Happy Days and American Graffiti, and then he becomes a director, and the first time he directed, I said, well, if anybody can be a good director, I guess it'd be him, since he's been around it all his life, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's proven that correct,
Over and over again.
over and over
What's
again.
your favorite Ron Howard movie?
Oh, I don't know. It's tough. He's made so many, and I can't keep track of them. I kind of like that Tom Cruise one, with him and the Irish Story. That was the original name, but Far and Away.
Far Away.
Far and Away. I kind of like that. I keep meaning to go back and rewatch that. And then I liked Apollo 13, of course, because it was, but he has so many that I don't know. Name some more.
I don't know anymore. I mean,
yeah.
You know me, I'm a dummy.
You're the dummy. Yeah. But yeah, I've seen a lot of Ron Howard movies, and he's a little bit of everything, right? I think he excels though in the kind of in the Spielbergian type film, that more the adventure story than he does. Like I've seen his comedies. His comedies I've never particularly cared for. So I think he works better in the adventure genre, or Far and Away was kind of romance adventure, whatever. But and Apollo 13 was probably his highest rated film. But this was very good too. So it's just it. Like I told somebody yesterday, I think now that the streaming things, because this was on Prime, the streaming channels now are becoming the studios.
Yeah.
Because all the big films are starting to come out on the streaming channels now.
Yeah, I was wondering why I didn't go into the theaters, because I would have enjoyed it there.
I would have enjoyed it too. I was hoping it was going to do that, show up in a theater in Thailand. Then I found out that's not going to be shown here at all. They don't want, like you said, they don't want, it's all about the government losing face and all that kind of stuff. And actually, it worked out to the best. They did everything right in the long run. I just, it's Thailand. Like when somebody says you're in Thailand now, you just have to. We're used to America where we can just make fun of everybody. We make movies that make fun of our politicians, and and it's a daily thing for us. Creating humor about these people that have been put on pedestals. But in Thailand, it's a little bit different. The government tries to keep a tight control on the way people think. So anyway, that's as much as I want to share. Thank you. And
that from the movie?
From the movie, that's right. We do this a lot in Thailand.
What do you say?
Swadee Kap, Swadee. And so that ends our show. Thank you.